about to show you something terrifying. It's the table from hell. This project. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Hi, I'm Lois and I make stuff. I'm an artist, writer, and songwriter. I started this YouTube channel because I wanted to share with you some of my art and ideas and show you a little bit about what's going on here in St. Charles. It's this table here, and you can see the frame. This is my Lotus pond table. I'm going to interject some photographs I have of the finished table, the before and after. But here's the frame. And underneath this frame, I have this LED light that kind of fits in place. And right here in this spot was where I had a piece of glass that came with the table. I scraped all the paint off from underneath it, and I put a silk under glass technique. So I had this piece of glass, and underneath it had silk varnished underneath, and so the light would shine through and it would be gorgeous. It would be like almost like a stained glass. A lady came into the shop when I had it at AMV, and she said she really liked it, but she had little kids and it was a very thin sheet of glass. She wanted to make it safer, so I said, well, I'll have to think on this. So this is a one-of-a-kind project. What I decided to do was that I wanted to keep this silk painting, and so I decided to sandwich it, the piece of glass, in between resin poured on each side. You can see the resin on each side. So I waited for a month and a half for this thing to cure. And then I sanded it down on the edges. Tried to fit it back into the frame. And I tapped it very gently with a hammer because I couldn't find my glazing hammer. And this happened. And you can't really see it, but except from a certain point of view, and you can certainly see it when the light comes through. So there's that big old crack. And I'm trying to decide. It seems like no matter what I try to do to fix it, I make things worse. That's why I call this table the project from hell. But I'm determined to make up a pretty table. This is my project and just my ongoing struggle with this thing. So that's the problem that we have. That's my dilemma. I have these silk items that have been steamed 24 hours ago and are ready to have a bath. But one of the items that I have is this new table. So I'm going to make her a new table out of charmeuse silk, and I'm going to do a silk under glass technique. I'm going to try to do this. I don't think it's ever been done. I'm going to try to do a silk under glass technique using this piece and some of that polycarbonate plexiglass, very thick plexiglass that I got at Lowe's. I have my infamous table from hell, and I'm working on it today. I'm determined to work on it today because I need to get this out of my studio and to Melanie, who's been patiently waiting. So now you've seen the front, what I need to replace. I found this piece of plexiglass, and I cut it with my saw and bandsaw and jigsaw into the right shape. So it fits in there. It's got the plastic on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to pull the plastic off now on the bottom, and I'm going to take my Lotus picture and varnish it next. Okay. This method that I learned is, I call it silk under glass. In this case, we're doing it silk under acrylic, or polycarbonate, I think is what this is. So we're going to try it and see how it works. If you want to know how to do the silk under glass technique, I mean, I'm going to show you a little bit, but as far as the complete instructions, I'm going to post the YouTube channel where you can go to get these complete instructions, because I don't want to duplicate anything somebody else has done. I learned this method from that YouTube, so I need to give credit where credit is due. I have what she recommends in this is the spar urethane, and this has actually worked really well. It's Varathane Ultimate Spar Urethane. It's a water-based varnish, so you can clean your brush off. You don't have to use anything special, any solvents or anything like that. You can clean it off with water. I use this. It seems to be working really well. So ideally what happens is you have a clean surface. This is the underside of the table. Silk is going to go under the table, facing up. So I'm going to varnish the underside of the table. Then I'm going to put the silk down and then varnish the back of the silk. We'll do 2 coats. Make sure you get it on every section. And then you start from the middle and you work your way out. In this case, I think we're going to start from the bottom. And I have to stand up to do this. So this is my pattern, and part of that will be cut off. I'm just going to kind of center it on the fabric. Or center it on the... So this is kind of what it's going to look like. This will be good. Now this is charmeuse silk. And last time I used Habitai. And you just kind of push it out from the center and make sure that there's no wrinkles. Once you get the varnish on the back of it, then you'll be able to push it along a little bit better and get all of these little gaps and air bubbles out, so the silk is completely affixed to the top of the table. But you got to play around with it at first to make sure that it lays flat. I do this method with... Okay, I did that wrong. I'm going to have to do that again, as I did it backwards. Okay, so I did that wrong. Okay. I'm going to do this again. I put the fabric on upside down. So you want to see the front side of the fabric through the bottom of the table. Does that make sense? Yes. So you apply the front side of the fabric to the bottom of the table. So you see the front side through the top. Okay. So I've done this again, and this time I'm going to do it the right way. So my signature, the reason I can tell this is because my signature would be backwards. So I'm going to put it so that my signature is down. I'm going to try to fairly get it centered, aesthetically pleasing. I've got my little condiment cups to keep me just a little bit off of the table, so nothing sticks. Kind of stretch it out a little bit. This is charmeuse silk. The last time I did this, I did it on Habitai, and it was pretty thin, which is nice because then the sunlight comes through. I don't know if this is going to be too thick or not. We'll see. But this is what I happen to have. So, you know, I use what I have. My resolution is not to invest any more in materials or supplies until the end of the year. So I'm trying to make do with what I have. Now when you get that down, you varnish the back of the fabric. And you want to make sure that the entire fabric gets coated with this varnish. And once you do that, then you're going to push any air bubbles and wrinkles out of the fabric to make sure that it's completely flat to the surface of your glass or plastic. As I said, I've done this on glass several times. I do plates that I get from Berenberg, and the platters actually seem to go over really well, the silk painted platters. I've never done this on plastic, but my reasoning for doing this on acrylic or polycarbonate this time is because Melanie wants to buy this table, but she has little kids, and I want to make it safer for her little kids. I think this painting actually, I like a little bit better than the last one I did, so maybe it'll be worth the wait. I mean, seriously, this poor woman has waited like 8 months for this table, so I need to finish it. This is why I don't do commission, guys. Don't ask me to do a commission, because I have that hanging over my head, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta finish this. So I like to do in my art what I want to do, what strikes my fancy. Okay, and because this is charmeuse, it's going to take a lot more varnish than the Habitat, so you just make sure it's soaked. Make sure it's completely soaked with this varnish. And then also what you want to do is cover the sides, because you want to make the edges stiff, because you're going to cut the edges flush with a razor blade, and you want to make sure that it's stiffened enough with varnish that you can cut those edges off. Okay. So I'm really just making sure that there are no wrinkles and that I push out the fabric from the center. Make sure that, you know, there's just not going to be any air pockets or wrinkles that are apparent. And it looks to be pretty well covered. If I lift it up carefully, let's hope we can do this. You can see this is what it's going to look like from the front. It almost looks like stained glass. Once you get the light coming through it and everything, it really almost does look like stained glass. Okay. So you let that dry for a couple of hours, at least. Make sure you wash your brush, otherwise you won't be able to use it. And then come back and I'll show you what to do then. Okay, so here we are again. It's been a couple of hours, but this is still very tacky. There's an air bubble right there. It's still a little wet, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that I used a thicker silk. Normally it doesn't take this long to dry, but I'm going to try to cut it anyway. So what I have here is I've actually like varnished over the sides of this, and normally I would cut this if it was glass, but I have to be super careful because this is polycarbonate, so the polycarbonate will cut. But what you need to do is stretch your silk and then find the edge of this, and the varnish makes the silk hard enough so that you can just run a razor blade, a straight edge razor blade, across the end. And this really does a good job. Oh my God, that cuts like butter. Wow. Of course, I have a brand new razor blade here too. Look at how it cuts. Awesome. This is gonna work beautifully. Oh, Melanie's gonna love her table. Okay. So then this what I'll do is I'll just cut the edge of this, and then I'm probably gonna let it dry for another couple of hours. So with this piece of silk, I'm going to say it needs to take at least 4 hours to dry. I'll see you back here in 2 hours. Here I have the tabletop from the table from hell. And I'm about to do a second coat of this Varathane Spar urethane. What I've done is I've done the first coat, and I let it sit for a couple of hours. Then I came back with a single-edged razor blade and cut off the excess. So this is all my excess here. There wasn't a lot, but there was a little bit, but this charmeuse is what I happen to have at the house, so, and it happened to be cut in a certain size. And you can see this is what it's gonna, minus the cuffs, this is what it's gonna look like from the front, but there's a film right now that's protecting the front of it while I continue to work on it, and then we'll take that off. It actually looks, out of all of the silks to do this silk under glass technique, this charmeuse actually works the best. Even better than the habitai, because the habitai is just a little bit, maybe if I picked a thicker mummy habitai than what I had, but this looks really nice. There's a lot of depth of color in this one that wasn't in the last one, so this will be nice. Okay, so essentially what I do is I paint another layer of varnish over the varnish that is already dried, and then if you want to, you can either sort of coax these little fibers down that you might have missed, or you can try to slice them off. This is a good opportunity with the varnish to kind of varnish the sides a little bit and press those fibers down. Then you'll get a nice even edge. So you just cover this up with one last coat, and then you're done with this. I'm going to wait a day. So tomorrow I'll pick up from this point and put it back in the frame, and you can see the finished product. It's a day later, and here is my finished top of the Pink Lotus table, Lotus Pond. You can see the charmeuse actually did really well. Now charmeuse has like a satin layer, but it also has a sort of silky glossy layer, and so the silky glossy layer is the front of the fabric, and that's what we painted. So it actually, I really like it much better than the habitai. You know, charmeuse is more expensive than the habitai, but it's more of a brilliant color, and that could be just because it's a thicker fabric than the other one I used, but I think it looks better. Oh my gosh, it really does look better. I hope she's going to still want this table, because if she doesn't, I might keep it. I don't know. Okay, so then now I've left this layer of protective film on the front, and this is going to be the time when I take it off, because I've got it pretty much finished, but now I need to put it inside the frame. Now this is nice because if you do get a little bit of varnish, you can see I got a little bit of varnish on the front there. You can just peel this film off, and all of that comes with it. So I'm going to peel this off, and I'm going to put it in the frame. Here it is set in the frame, and you can see it fits very well. That actually looks nice from the bottom. Too bad you can't see the bottom. Oh yeah. Okay, and then I have these brads. And I thought about using like glazing points and stuff like that. But the problem is that when you put items on top of this table, you're going to weigh it down a little bit. So these brads will probably not protect, like if a kid wanted to sit on top of the table, they'd give way. But they're sufficient enough to hold the weight and support this to a certain extent. Now this is kind of a flimsy table to begin with, and I've tried to make efforts to reinforce it in various ways, like by putting braces and stuff like that, but they're really just kind of small bits of wood covered with composite material that aren't very well reinforced. So, you know, you kind of get what you expect in this case. But I'm trying to make it as pretty as possible. I'm trying to make this sow's ear into a silk purse. Here is the finished Lotus Pond table, the table from hell. And I have to say, this story has a happy ending. I am more pleased with the way this table came out than the previous tabletop that I did. I think it looks richer in color. I'm not really sure about the varnishing technique with polycarbonate, but it's certainly something that I would consider in the future under similar circumstances. I needed to make this a safer table, and it is a safer table. Even though the brads are in here supporting this, it would probably, if somebody sat on the table, it probably give way. If you put a heavy weight on the table, yes, it would probably give way. But it wasn't meant to withstand that. It's more or less for decoration. And I replaced the batteries in the little LED thing down below. Eventually it times out, I believe. When you turned it on, it sort of times out. But you can see it almost looks like stained glass. Cool. I hope she likes it. If not, I'm going to have to figure out who I'm going to sell it to. Madeline, your table's ready.